Poor Waitress fed 5 broke bikers, said no to payment. 48 hours later, 800 Hell's Angels surrounded. It was another long night at Rosie's Diner, a lonely little place sitting quietly on the edge of Highway 71, where truckers and travelers came and went like passing storms. The neon sign buzzed faintly in the rain, and inside, beneath flickering fluorescent lights, a young waitress named Clara Evans wiped down tables that hadn't seen customers in hours. Her hands were rough, cracked from years of dish soap and hard work, and her tired eyes told stories that words never could. The smell of stale coffee filled the air, and the only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the soft patter of rain against the windows. Clara was 26, but the world had aged her soul twice over. Life had not been kind to her, a mother lost to cancer, a father gone before she turned 16, and now a sick little boy at home who depended on her every breath. If you believe that even in the darkest moments, kindness can light a way, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world compassion still exists. That night, as the clock neared midnight, the diner door swung open. The soft jingle of the bell was followed by the heavy stomp of boots. 5 men entered, tall, broad, and covered in tattoos that told a lifetime of chaos. The word Hell's Angels glared from their black leather jackets, gleaming faintly in the dim light. Most people would have frozen, maybe even run, but Clara simply smiled, weary but warm, and grabbed 5 menus. They looked rough, unshaven faces, tired eyes, and knuckles scarred from fights no one wanted to remember. Yet there was something quiet, something human beneath all that steel and shadow. The leader, a man in his 40s with a graying beard and deep, stormy eyes, sat at the counter. "Coffee. Strong," he muttered. The others followed, but Clara noticed how their hands trembled when they reached for the cups, and how their stomachs seemed to growl louder than the thunder outside. They were hungry, not just hungry, but starving. She could see it in the way they looked at the menu, as if every word was a distant dream they couldn't afford. One of them fumbled through his pockets and found nothing but a few coins. Without a word, Clara turned back to the kitchen. She didn't ask questions. She didn't care about what they'd done, who they were, or what stories rode behind their bikes. She just started cooking. 5 plates, bacon, eggs, pancakes, and steaming hot coffee. She poured every bit of heart she had into that meal. It wasn't much, but to them, it might as well have been a feast. When she brought the food out, the men stared in disbelief. "We didn't order yet," one said softly, his voice breaking. "You looked like you needed it," Clara replied, setting down the plates. "Eat first. We'll figure the rest out later." They ate in silence, except for the soft clinking of forks and the occasional sigh of relief. When they were done, the leader stood and pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. "It's all we've got, miss. Please take it." Clara smiled and shook her head. "No need. You remind me of my brother," she said quietly. "He used to ride, too. Before the accident." Her voice cracked for a second, but she hid it behind a tired smile. "Just promise me you'll pay it forward someday." The men didn't argue. They stood there for a long moment, unsure of how to respond to a stranger's kindness in a world that had long forgotten mercy. Then they left, one by one, into the rain-soaked night. The leader was the last to go. Before he walked out, he looked at Clara and said, "You don't know what you just did for us." She only nodded, wiping her hands on her apron as the sound of roaring engines faded into the distance. The next morning, Clara went back to her life of quiet struggle. Her little boy, Eli, was only 6 but already battling a rare illness that required expensive medication. Every paycheck vanished faster than it came. The roof leaked, the car barely started, and some nights she skipped dinner just to make sure Eli could eat. But she never complained. She believed, somehow, that if she just kept being kind, the world would eventually be kind back. 48 hours later, life decided to test that faith. It was Sunday afternoon, and the diner was half empty, sunlight spilling through the windows as Clara refilled the sugar jars. That's when she heard it, a distant rumble, deep and steady. At first, she thought it was thunder again, but then it grew louder. The plates on the counter began to tremble. The ground seemed to vibrate beneath her feet. She looked out the window and froze. Down the highway, stretching farther than the eye could see, came hundreds of motorcycles, chrome gleaming, engines roaring in unison. Hell's Angels. Not 5. Not 50. But hundreds. Later she'd learn it was more than 800 riders. The sky seemed to shake as they surrounded the diner, parking their bikes in a circle like an army arriving for war. Townsfolk began gathering nearby, whispering and pointing, wondering what was happening. Clara's heart pounded. Had she done something wrong? Were they angry? Were they here to collect some unknown debt? She stood frozen as the door swung open again. The same man from 2 nights ago stepped inside, his beard wet from the wind, his eyes softer than before. Behind him, dozens of other bikers followed, filling every inch of the diner and parking lot. He smiled faintly and set a small box on the counter. "You said no to payment," he said quietly. "But that doesn't mean we forgot." Clara hesitated, her hands trembling as she opened the box. Inside was an envelope filled with cash, thousands of dollars. "What is this?" she whispered. The man stepped closer. "You fed 5 of my boys when we hadn't eaten in days. We were down bad, Clara. Lost everything after a busted charity ride. You didn't know us, but you showed us kindness. So, we made some calls." He turned and gestured toward the window. "That's 800 of my brothers out there. Every one of them pitched in, for you and your boy." Clara's eyes filled with tears. The men started bringing in boxes, groceries, toys for Eli, new furniture, even a brand new car parked outside with a red ribbon on the hood. Someone fixed the diner's broken sign. Another handed her a card from a hospital charity fund that would cover Eli's treatment for an entire year. The leader looked at her one last time and said, "You gave us food when we had none. We just came to return the meal, times 800. Clara broke down crying right there, unable to speak, the weight of her struggle melting away under the sound of roaring engines and the warmth of unexpected grace. That day, the diner that had once stood silent became the heart of a miracle. People stopped to take pictures, record videos, and later, the story spread across news outlets. Poor Waitress fed broke bikers, receives blessing from 800 Hell's Angels. But for Clara, it wasn't about fame. It was about faith, faith that kindness never dies, it only travels, and someday, it finds its way home. Weeks later, she framed the photo of her standing beside the bikers outside the diner. Under it, she wrote, "Be kind. Even when no one's watching." If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales. Every story you support helps remind the world that compassion is stronger than fear, and love still wins in the end. Speech balloon special request, tell us in the comments, what's the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you? Your story might inspire the next tale of kindness.